Alright, this is the cable coming in. You know, I could pull that and put the heavier cable in. I'm not going to mess with it now. I may opt to do that a little later. Haven't quite decided. Anyway, the green just comes in and just loops right back around and gets connected to the ground stud there, which also goes up here and connects to the bus bar, which runs the grounds to everything else. And there's our black and our white. Okay. So we know green is ground. It's 220 single phase. The polarity doesn't matter. Well, we'll run through this kind of quick here. This is simply how I'm doing it. As everybody's disclaimer says, get a qualified electrician. This is a 30 amp plug because that's what I have my everything else around here set at. And this is a dual, so it'll do 30 or 50. Yeah. Just Home Depot special kind of thing. What we have here, all right, we've got 3 prongs here. Okay, now for the 50 amp, it'll use the straight up and down one in that spot. Not what we want. We want the L. So when you put them in here, okay, the paperwork shows it there too. But basically, you know, if you try to put that one in like that way, you can't get to the screw. Okay, so you want the screws pointing out so you can get at them. Okay, now my preference for doing this kind of work is one of these interchangeable ones because it's got a ground tip. You know, it's been ground on a grinder kind of thing. And when you look at that, I'm sure when you think about it, you'll realize what I'm talking about. But it curves in, and when it gets right down to where it's biting, the sides are almost exactly parallel. So you get a really good, strong bite. Except for the fact the one I have picked doesn't seat. It's too wide. So that works. Okay. As opposed to a regular screwdriver, which has a taper coming down to it. Okay. So you automatically have an angle there when you're trying to put your torque against it. It's trying to push back out. So I much prefer these. I can get a whole lot more torque on them. I've seen this before at work. Guys have tried to put connectors together like this and stuff, and they've tinned the wire, which means they put solder on the end of the wire. Any of my training, anything in doing that, it's always been do not tin it. There's reasons to tin wires and that stuff, but for these kind of connections, no. And in fact, I was just looking through here, and it says right here, do not tin conductors. Okay. So, and it also gives a strip guide. I'm pretty sure the strip guide. Yeah, there's a strip guide right on here as well, okay, that you can put your wire against. And so your main insulation's down here, and they want the copper up to there. You know, there's going to be 2 different lengths. You got 2 here, and the one deep one, you know, that way they reach up there without having to twist or bind up any of the other wires. The white wire is the neutral. That's the one that's going to go up to the middle there, so... Yeah, it just says insulation here. It doesn't say white. If you look at the directions, it shows the white one should go up the middle. So we're going to kind of find a position for our wires here to where the white is in the middle. And we got a ways to go. We need to pull... The insulation's okay here. There's a bunch of different kinds of strippers. You know, really, if you don't have a clue what you're doing, get an electrician to do it. So that's pretty close. I'm not going to do the other 2 until we get the lengths down. We need to trim the main insulation, the cord, back a bit. And no, it's not going to mount it that far back. The whole thing has to go up, you know, so it's going to be up that far in it. So, alright, so I went and got the razor knife. Let's get an idea where we're at here, right about there. Okay. Now you want to do it real carefully, because you don't want to be slicing way into the other insulation. So once you get a little start there, you can put a bend in it, and then you can pull it back at an angle and just cut a little bit more. Cut a little bit more. You know, so basically what you're doing as it's stretching the insulation apart, you know, in this cuts, it's a pretty easy controlled way to get down to the bottom of the insulation there. And it's not blind, you know, whereas if I just took the thing and just went right around it, like I'm peeling an orange, I wouldn't have a clue exactly how deep I was going. So we'll get rid of the other pieces of insulation here. This pair of wire cutters is still like new, so that's why it's cutting the paper cord there so nicely. Okay. So we're sitting pretty much where we need to be. Let's cut the other two back. That one's going to get cut right there. They both get cut the same, so I can just do the other one. Now again with the wire strippers, these, you have a screw right here, okay, that you can set for your wire size, so that way you don't go too far in. I don't ever tend to use it, but if you use a style like this, be really careful. You just go in a little bit and peel it so the rubber tears. You don't want to cut into the wire, because you don't want to lose any of the conductors that are in there, all the little wires. So they've got other ones with round holes and cutters and stuff like that, and like I said, you know, use what you're comfortable with, or get a qualified tech to do it. So when it goes in here, it's not going to matter which goes left or right, green or black, just that the white goes up to the middle there. I'm getting ready to plug it in and hook it up for the first time. No power drawbar or anything like that. I want to see if it lives. I don't want to smoke anything, obviously, but since I don't have a monitor and a keyboard hooked up, I don't really want to go ahead and start the computer, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull that power cord out. That'll keep the computer from firing up and running. Let's see if we get our other fans, and maybe if I'm recording when it does it and it smokes, I can see where the smoke comes from. Alright, it's plugged in. Alright, and if you're going to do anything inside an energized cabinet, and technically this thing is energized, it's got power to here, okay? That's what I want to check before I flip that switch. And so I've got it on AC. I just need to pick a ground point, basically. The one-handed method is by far the best. You know, I really only want one hand in here. I don't want to be leaning on the cabinet or anything like that. Let's get the... And I'm wearing the gloves just because I still have them on. I'm not wearing them because they provide any kind of protection or anything like that from the electricity. Now I'm going to the black, and I'm seeing 250 volts. So that's telling me that my wiring's off somewhere, and I have 120 volts to green there, and I'm measuring across the two phases. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I need to go change the cord. I noticed that at first, but the thing is in electronics, automotive, electrical stuff like that, green is ground. Okay, that's not the case in household wiring and stuff like that. Well, in this case, I needed to put green to the center of the to the ground plug. Okay, so let's go change that back, and good thing I measured it first. That would have sucked, and I would have been annoyed because whatever, because I saw it, caught it before, told myself I got to make sure I do green as ground. So let's go change it in the plug. I am so glad I checked that. Okay, so when you strip the wire back, strip it back more than far enough. Okay? And get that right first, and then worry about doing the rest of the trimming. And this is 14-3 wire. This connector is made for more of 10-3. So I don't know if this is exactly kosher. Don't follow my example. But I've doubled it over there because it wouldn't grip hard enough. Okay, so I'm putting it in that way just to have a physically bigger wire for this to tighten up on. So maybe an electrician out there or whatever tell me that's just absolutely insane, don't do that, and I'll change it. Kind of my plan at this point is to test it with this wire, and then I think I'm going to go back and install the 10-3. So we'll see. Okay, so I'm making it twice as long as it would normally be. The stripped part, the bare wire. And yes, I'm doing that basically as hard as I can. Okay, so we're going to lay it down in, start laying the connectors down in there. Let's push them all the way down in. Now this green plug here for the strain relief, it's got two different sides. On one side, like right here, it says plus 0.70 diameter. Okay, so that's the side you would want to look at. And it goes in there, and what it does is it leaves a bigger hole. But when you flip it over the other way, yeah, and it only goes in there one way. It goes in upside down or either way, but as far as facing. So now when you put it together here, you want to kind of wiggle these and make sure they get seated correctly. Okay, so other than the resistance on squeezing the wire, this should close. Should basically close all the way. Alright, let's try this again. The switch is still off over there. Let's go meter it again. Okay. Turn the meter back on. Let it settle down a little bit there. Alright, and let's touch the black one. Now it only says 15, and I know what I just said about only having one arm in the cabinet, but I'm just going to push that green down a little bit. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take a clip here, and let's clip it to ground. Clip it to my negative lead here, and that's kind of iffy. I run it through the hole there basically. That can hang, but I'm going to let it sit right there. All right. So let's touch this one. 124. That's what I should have. And I got 124 on that one too. All right. And I've got 0 at that ground. And one thing I'm going to check is the extension cord right behind me here. I'm gonna check in the ground there. If I can get a good contact point here. There we go. I got 8 millivolts. Okay. The reason I'm doing that. Okay, so what I did was I plugged it into the ground on the extension cord here. Okay. I could check it to the neutral too. 0.5 volt. And then this side I should see 120. Anyway, the reason I'm checking that is I want to make sure that there's no kind of floating ground and that I end up with a difference in potential between the ground on this and the ground on the rest of my house. Because that's when you start getting zapped when you start touching the cabinet and stuff like that. So I'm just double checking that. I'm not an electrician, but you know, it's just one of those things. We get floating grounds in electronics. You can get your ass bit pretty good by them. So I'm just double checking it here. I've got my main power, my drive power's on here. Nothing is still going. Oh, let's turn those both off. And I'm going to plug the computer power supply back in. Now let's turn the main on. Nothing. We turn the drive on. Nothing. Let's hit the PC start, and that should bring everything to life. Voila! Fan, Ethernet light. So, computer's running. VFD's got power. The Bob's got power. Each one of these have power. The 2 fans down here are running. Our relay is green down here. You can see that right there. So that's got a green light. The power comes to there and goes through that. So nothing else turns on until that relay gets tripped.